TimberGuide is a mobile GIS platform designed to enhance logging efficiency, productivity, and profitability, while at the same time allowing operations monitoring for improved management practices. Today we're going to be speaking with Joseph Parnell, past Alabama Logger of the Year and well-known industry leader, about his experiences in using TimberGuide since 2009.
We installed TimberGuide on this particular machine. It was the first installation we had, and we ran it about a week, and we came and pulled the production data off of it. And then we met with the operator and explained to him about the guidance and the productivity data. And the days following that, our production increased by nearly 30%, and that's held pretty constant. Productivity alone has paid for it for us. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever.
As far as the operators, I guess maybe history or background or educational level, have you seen that a person needs to be very educated in computers or college education, or is it just simply a willingness to use the system that's all it takes?
It's just simply a willingness to use it. I think my 7-year-old daughter could operate this system. Well, probably more efficiently than I could.
The younger generation, but even the older generation maybe doesn't have the familiarity with computers. Have you seen that they've been able to utilize it?
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
From a standpoint of customers' response, the timber companies that you work on, can you tell me a little bit what their opinion has been as far as the quality of the job they see, as far as land management, some of the benefits maybe they've experienced out of it since you've...
The managers and the technicians on the ground love it. It gives them the opportunity for more choices.
Are there other benefits that you've seen, maybe along skid distance or being able to understand area completion? Can you talk a little bit about some of those features?
Well, there are two features on the system that benefit us, and one, as you said, is the distance measurement. By touching any 2 points on the screen, it'll tell us the distance between those 2 points. And for us to be our most efficient, we need to keep our skidding distances under 1,000 feet. And by being able to know where you are with your cutter in relationship to where your decking area is, you can better manage the site and minimize your skid distances. And what that's done is enable us to be more efficient with our skidder and to reduce our fuel consumption. The other thing is the area measurement. And by mashing a button that says area and mashing the perimeter of either the area that you cut or the area that you haven't cut, it'll automatically tell you how many acres are there. With this, if we've got 5 acres left, we know we've got 5 acres left, and if the average yield has been 1 load per acre, we know we need to have lowboys there around noon the following day. And so they show up and the equipment's almost always ready to go within 30 minutes of when we planned it.
What about other features in terms of just managing the job? We have other customers that utilize that, not just in the cess placement, but totally looking over the job through the terrain image and the aerial photograph. How can you explain a little bit how you might use those tools in terms of setting up the job, finding maybe drier ground in wet wintertime conditions?
Well, the LiDARs, that is the terrain image that we're downloading and putting into our system, will show us where the hills and valleys are, and you can look at those LiDARs, especially when it's wet, and pick your higher areas and go to those areas and try to find a place to work on wet days when we normally wouldn't be able to work. One of the main selling points for this to me, Chad, was the first time I heard you give a presentation, and you made the statement that if you have a fellow buncher that's not cutting timber, then you essentially have a $225,000 air conditioner. And that sold me, because that is so true. While you're out riding around in the woods looking for decks and looking for roads and looking for ridges and trying to decide where to put your corridors, you're riding around in a $225,000 air conditioner. That's not very efficient. If you got $1 million worth of equipment here running, you need to be running it the most efficient way possible.
Does it help reduce the amount of time an operator spends double checking himself to make sure all the wood's been picked up, track's been cleared, and utilization has been covered for SFI or FSC certification?
Well, speaking of those certifications, one of the things that is great about this is when we get to a wet area, we can mark it on the map in the fellow buncher, and it shows up in the skidder. The skidder knows to bring slash to pad that area before he skids on it. And then we don't have rutting issues that or non-compliance issues from rutting because we've dealt with them before they happen. Another thing that you can do is if you have to have an SMZ crossing, you can mark that crossing on your map, and then when you transfer that map to the land managers, he knows where you cross that SMZ. He has a lat and lawn of it. Let me tell you about a little experience that we had with one of the big landowners that we did a year-long contract with. They had a continuous block of acreage, 8 or 10,000 acres that we were thinning on. And during that time we were there, they said, we're not going to mark the boundary lines because we're not worried about getting on our neighbors. We're going to just download our shape files and let you guys cut to the shape points. Well, what we found out pretty soon into that was that their shape files were incorrect. They had been, drawn from aerial photographs or whatever method. And what they told us, there's an obvious end to this stand and a beginning to the next because the age classification cut to the end of the stand. And they found that they had a significant variance in acreage to what they thought they had. And I think they found it hugely beneficial.
Well, and we see that with other customers experience the same thing you do, Joseph. Most of the timber companies operate on a GIS basis. They have a presumed quantity of land that's made up of specific composition. And when you harvest the tract, you typically find that to be different. So that's been your experience, is that there is not only value to you as the contractor, but also to the land manager in being able to better understand, map, in a real-time manner.
We've run into a couple of instances where we were cutting the block and we thought we were finished, and you pull the map up and look and you see you got, that's not the boundary line, that's an SMZ line, and there's 10 more acres on the other side of the SMZ. We would have otherwise moved off and not thinned those acres had we not known. But we've seen quite a bit of benefit. And just from an operator's perspective, I can't tell you how, I don't know, I guess the word comfort sounds weird in the sense, but of the knowing where you are all day in relation to the tract that you're cutting, rather than wondering all day, am I about to cut over the boundary line?
And you have final harvest jobs too. That holds true no matter whether they're in a clear cut or in a thinning situation. Even if it's all plantation, it all looks fairly uniform, your operator still, you see gains in productivity from that operator having that information in front of him, the aerials, the maps, the terrain images.
Well, we're running it on a multi-shift crew, and they cut at night, and it's invaluable to know where your SMZs are at night because your landowners are not going to be very forgiving if you cut through their stream management zones. And so we know where our boundaries are, and giving that operator a sense of where I am and feeling comfortable to just go out and cut wood rather than wondering if I'm on the track or if I'm getting close to the line or is there an SMZ by. Just knowing where you are in relation to those boundaries allows you to be more productive because you can just go cut wood instead of wondering and looking and slowing down all night trying to find out where those lines are.
So in a standpoint, there's a lot of people that talk about monitoring productivity through engine diagnostics or different functions of a machine. But what you're saying is that your production gains have not come from the monitoring near as much as they have from improving the operator's ability to utilize this machine through that information we put in front of him.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly because this gives you all the tools that you need, but you've got to be willing to use them and put them into practice. It's one of the best tools since the circle saw on the fellow bunch.
TimberGuide is a unique approach to improving efficiency, productivity, and profitability. TimberGuide doesn't just monitor engine data and operator performance, it provides the tools to understand the entire operation as never before possible through the integration of GIS information and productivity data.